content over everything.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to introduce yourself because I haven't really spoken to you on camera before.
So I'm Sam. I've been coming to Speaker's Corner for about almost 2 years now.
All right, similar time as me. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about something that's kind of a hot topic now within, let's say, the right, which is the notion of civic nationalism and ethno-nationalism. Now, ethno-nationalism, I think, is pretty simple, which is that you believe, some who's an ethno-nationalist believe that the majority, I'm assuming maybe like 90-95%, the minimum, should be of a particular stock of people. So in England, you're talking about the English. In India, there are ethno-nationalists in India. I believe the Indians should be the majority. China, all over the world. It's not just a white phenomenon. It is every country, if you really look at it, is ethno-nationalist to a degree. Now, in the UK, we obviously have a population now, I think it's around 15%, which is going to be from an immigrant background. So, obviously, as you can see by myself, my forefathers were not here. My mum was, obviously the first generation that come down. So I've been here, for a short period of time. My family are from the Punjab. Big up to the Punjab. We run things.
Big up to the Punjab.
Yeah, and the thing is here, I'm going to read out if you want to give your definition of ethno-nationalism in your view, but civic nationalism, in terms of the Wikipedia, is this. So I'm a civic nationalist. So civic nationalism, also known as liberal nationalism, is a form of nationalism that identified by political philosophers who believe in an inclusive form of nationalism that adheres with traditional liberal values of freedom, tolerance, equality, and individual rights. So you can be from any background if you kind of like align with those particular thought process.
So do you align with the sort of the culture and the values of a country? It doesn't matter what your what your nationality is. I think that was I'd probably place myself there because I grew up near to Leicester.
All right. My family are down there.
So Leicester was the first place in the UK for the ethnic minority population to tip over the 50%.
Oh, is it over 50? Oh,
so they tipped over the 51%. This was like in 2006 or 7.
There's a lot of Hindus and Sikhs.
Lots of Hindus and Sikhs there. And for me, Leicester was a very good example of, I guess, civic nationalism because you've got Hindus, Sikhs, white British people all living together, sharing, broadly speaking, the same sort of values, although there are differences in faiths, whether it be Christianity or Hinduism or Sikhism, whatever it may be. Broadly speaking, there weren't any clashes between those community groups. Everybody went to school together. People didn't segregate themselves. We got on, crime wasn't a problem. I think what we're seeing now is that people are being labelled ethno-nationalists, particularly I would be labelled an ethno-nationalist by some living in London, because I think that being in London, if you're white British, then you're in the minority now. You're 45% of people, and I don't think that that's acceptable for a capital city to have 45% of the population white British, and then for people to use the term black and minority ethnic when black and minority are the majority, aren't they?
I mean, I'll give you my standpoint, and obviously people I won't say their names, say I'm a sellout, that I'm a coconut. Now for me, if you look around the world, every country that I mean, if you look at India, let's just give India as an example, because my family are from India. Down to India, I'm a Punjabi, and big up to Khalistan, separate state for the Sikhs. Now, if I was to go to the Punjab, and all of a sudden, the culture that, I think is a beautiful culture in there, which makes us who we are, even in the UK, if I went there and all of a sudden the population changed from the majority being Sikh Punjabi to now being Chinese, being 50%, I'm not going to hate the Chinese, but I will hate the change.
You'd be concerned.
Because the Chinese will have a different mindset unless they, what you call kind of take on the kind of culture wholeheartedly of the state, of the majority. And I do believe myself personally, and I am in, look, big up to Richard Inman, I don't want to say his name, but Richard Inman and Tommy Robinson and them are now in a situation where they're at loggerheads with an individual called Mark Collette.
Yeah.
And Mark Collette is somebody that...
He went to my grammar school.
Yeah, and you're closely associated with Ralph, who I call Chawala. Chawala means you serve tea in India. And he is associated with him. So when I was talking to you, you seem like a reasonable guy.
Yeah.
But your association with Ralph, and this is not me calling you out, because I've associated with people that other people might deem to be unacceptable.
Yeah.
But the split that's happening within the Tommy Robinson movement, let's just say, and the right, which is the Tommy Robinson movement, and the far right, which is actually big up movement. So, and the far right, which is actually Mark Collette, and you're looking at Ralpish, the darkest white nationalist known to mankind. And to me, it's kind of like quite disturbing how people are being switched over from civic nationalism to ethno-nationalism by this argument about becoming a minority. Because I truly believe that the host nation of any nation should be allowed to stay the majority.
Yes.
I believe that. So if I'm in India, you shouldn't let the population of an incoming group go above 30%. Maximum. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, that's a different topic. Same with the UK. I don't believe that if you're here, I don't believe that the population should exceed the indigenous population. That's not racist.
No.
That's just common sense. Every other country does that.
It's
Now,
conservative. You know, people always talk about referred to as far right or right wing, or whatever they want to do, alt right. Really, it's just conservatives, because it's conservatism because you want to conserve the state of your country. And so for people to castigate you as a racist and say, oh no, you can't say that.
But you can see how the Mark Collette movement, and I'll say Mark Collette,
because they're not very good communicators. The problem with these people.
No, Mark Collette is a very good communicator. That's why he's so dangerous, because he has been able to get people that I would consider to be civic nationalists quite easily over to ethno-nationalism by the argument that he wants to preserve the country as a majority white nation. Now he has said he will deport people.
So this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about his ability to sort of convert people to his movement. I'm talking about outside of, is it For Britain? Is that there?
Yeah, I think with Anne-Marie Waters,
Britain First, whatever it's called.
Britain First,
Anyway, outside that movement, him trying to convey his message to the general public is not a very good communicator, because he talks about deportation, whereas he should be talking about controlled migration.
Immigration.
Yeah, controlled immigration. That's a better way of putting it. If you say deportation, you just come across as somebody...
I do want to deport some people, though. A couple of people need to be deported. I won't say their names, but let's just say one of them's in prison. So deportation is a good thing for people that are very unproductive or dangerous to the society. If they have a host nation that they migrated from, and now they're here and they want to kill people here, get rid of them. If that's what the reason they're here for. Now the issue I'm having is that people are kind of drifting over to this Mark Collette ethno-nationalism and kind of like even people like Ralph, and I'm going to say Ralph because for him to be associated with Mark, because he said on one of his streams that he's taken down, how Mark Collette. Now we have a Jewish guy here. I don't know if he wants to join, but Mark Collette is a very, very anti-Semitic, racist. And for somebody like Chawala or Ralpish, who said he's a Zionist, to now side with Mark Collette, who blames the Jews for everything, it's kind of strange for me. Do you understand? It doesn't make sense.
But what has he said specifically that's anti-Semitic? Is he talking about the state of Israel being some sort of influential power in media and politics, or? Well,
I mean, Mark Collette.
Specifically.
I don't know if Joseph wants to join the conversation about Mark Collette. So we're talking about ethno-nationalism and civic nationalism, and I'm talking about the Tommy Robinson movement and how it's fracturing along the lines of civic nationalism and ethno-nationalism, and someone like Mark Collette is playing on this kind of great white replacement. And if you look at his rhetoric, he's actually blaming the Jews for the white replacement.
I mean, Mark Collette is not an ethno-nationalist, he's a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, neo-Nazi.
And so on ethno-nationalism you have a spectrum, and he's as far right as you can possibly get. So, civic nationalism, good in my eyes.
Yeah.
Ethno-nationalism can create problems.
Yeah, I mean, up to a degree. I mean, I was saying earlier that I do believe each state has the right to keep the majority of the population, around maybe 70% of the indigenous population. I don't think there's nothing wrong with
Why
that.
70? Why not 95 or 51?
Well, that's unrealistic now. I'm talking about the maximum. I'm not saying that's the
I'm just
ideal.
saying why that number?
Well, the thing is, we're at 15% now. Yeah. So we're at 15% now.
Draw the line. So on what side of the line is mixed race kids?
Well, I mean, look,
Quarter race.
I'm talking about immigrants coming in.
So let's play
not the people in the
That's
country.
nothing to do with race.
Let's play your 70-30 ratio, Raj.
Yeah.
And let's say migrant communities, say Islamic, Jewish, actually have higher birth rates than the indigenous
Yeah, which is true.
population.
Yeah.
What happens to your 70-30 ratio there?
Yeah, I mean, I need to think of it more depth. No, definitely not. I'm not a eugenicist. I'm just looking at. I'll be honest with you. What I've done is that I've superimposed like my thought process of the Punjab and how I would want that to stay, and try to use that because I'm trying to empathise with the people of the UK. So the only way I can really do that, although I'm British, I do have another background, and I try and think if I went to the Punjab, where my people are from, how much would I accept as an incoming group?
Yeah.
And I thought the maximum, it's not the ideal, the maximum will be probably 30% because you're still over the majority.
But it's interesting that you talked about the birth rate because I think
Why do you think?
Oh, don't worry.
Why do you think a majority of a particular group isn't necessarily a good thing? What do you think they all think the same, or
because they come from the same culture and they believe in preserving this British culture.
There's not
Culture is different to Western.
cultural diversity in this country.
Well, whether you like it or not, people are very tribalistic.
Yeah.
And people like to be
Some more
close.
than others.
No. You could just see the way immigrants come into different countries and how they go to certain groups and they stay within those areas. And it's not because they hate another group. People are more comfortable with people that are similar to them. The more similar you are, the more
that's when they
comfortable
first
you are.
arrive.
When they first arrive, yeah.
What happens 2 or 3 generations in? They start marrying out of the community. Look at the West Indian community. Over 50% of West Indian men have married a non-West
Yeah, I mean,
Indian
It depends if you tie religion into that.
Yeah.
Religion and other cultural ideas will limit that. So, Jewish community has lived separate as a Jew, retain their identity and their ethnicity while living in host nations where they are a minority. I think Islam is the same. Muslims have a very low marrying out rate, like similar to Jews. Catholics,
very high
I mean, I have to admit that I have in my own family, I have 2 white people in the family and 1 black person that's married within the family. And so, there is mixing and stuff like that. And it's not much of a problem because when people are either atheists or Christians, they tend to not kind of like have a kind of like a clash with the other culture.
It depends how
But
Christian
depending
they are.
on depending how Christian they are, and depending how thing you are.
Class of
So
civilization.
it is about mindset as well, yeah. About are you thinking in the same way as your neighbour and people like that who want the best for the UK?
Thinking in the same-
And there are a lot of people that are in the UK. And I don't
even talk to our neighbours.
I don't talk to my neighbours. Don't try and talk to me.
talk to my English
But
neighbours.
even if we did,
I talk to my neighbours, so maybe it's
I ignore them as well. I've managed to ignore them for 30 years.
No.
And let's hope I get another 30 years that I don't talk to
would it be a healthy society if we sort of all think more or less like our neighbours?
No, well, when I'm talking about thinking exactly the same, I'm not.
No, yes,
I would
absolutely.
have to convert
If you
to
look
Islam.
at Greek society, you look at Roman
These
society,
are ancient societies. We're in
you look at modern societies. There is advantages to having
I'm sure there are
a collective of people that think
but
similarly.
they're outweighed by the disadvantages.
Yeah,
What disadvantages of people belonging to a similar
You get
culture?
into a mind thing that whatever the group or this extended nation think is the better.
No, I think you've got the wrong.
This is just-
I think you've got the wrong end of the stick here. I'm talking about people that want the best for the UK moving forward. Now we may have different views of how to get there. But if you're in this
Hopefully
country, and your sole purpose is to say kind of disrupt the UK or cause issues within it,
That's another separate.
yeah, that's a separate. But that's the kind of
I
mind.
don't think what he's touching on is actually bigger. When you have a strong dominant culture,
Are you
and
going to go?
and you have-
you're lucky.
you have minority
I'll be here next week. We'll
cultures,
carry on the call.
Conversation kind of
you have
Yeah,
less
don't worry.
fraction because it's very clear what the dominant culture of a society is. if you have lots of weak cultures and no dominant cultures, then you get into power struggles and you get into people clashing.
What is a dominant culture?
A dominant. So as an example,
you're going to say Judeo-Christianity.
That's not what I was
going to say.
Your hands okay?
The last census showed that.
Oh, you're a warrior.
50% of the
So Jews are tiny. So take Jews out of the
No, I'm
equation.
talking culturally. Judeo-Christian, obviously, one from the other. But the simple fact of the matter is, under 50% of people in the census quote any form of Christianity as being, they may choose to get wedded, or they may choose the Christian children, but it's not central to them.
I'm sure you will accept there are places around the world where there are civil wars and there is mass ethnic conflict. There are numerous places around the world, and what tends to happen when those conflicts arise is because you don't have a powerful state that's able.
This is democratic societies on the whole you're describing, aren't you? You're talking about
You look post-Yugoslavia, you look anywhere where you have, literally, whether you're talking modern Syria or you're talking.
Yugoslavia are rather difficult.
Can I just say something? The individual that was here, he had to go at 5:20, so we're going to carry that conversation over. One thing I do want to touch upon now you're here, because you've had a conversation with Mark Collette before, haven't you?
Yeah.
And one of the things he's accusing, like the Tommy Robinson movement of, is that they're Zionists and that they kind of putting Israel above the UK. Now, what is your kind of take on that? Because I don't see that per se.
So no, I mean,
He's not a Zionist.
So
He is a Zionist. It's simply as a characteristic he needs.
The picture of his Jewish cow.
Included
I've got
because
bigger fish to fry, but
he thinks that
What does that prove?
So from that point, Tommy Robinson is a Christian.
no, he's a
Yeah, but who's this man here?
Orthodox.
No. But who is
He's
that man?
Orthodox Christian.
He's a Christian, yeah.
So
why
no,
you-
I'm not showing that. You're showing that, mate.
No, it's
Israel
in Israel.
Defence
This
League.
is a picture taken of Israel.
I'm not. I've got bigger fish to fry than this. Now I've got the sexualisation of the kid. That
Okay,
comes from Jews as well.
You get back.
Oh,
to
it's
your
the
Jew
Jews
hate.
again.
You get back to your Jew
My
hate.
chips are cold.
Frankfurt school, I'm
It's
not
the
Jew.
Jews.
I've never said
This
Jew
is a guy
hate.
who honestly believes that one picture.
Oh, so right. So let's get him in. Come in here. Because this Jewish kind of, it's all the Jews' fault. Like you.
I never said it's all the
So let me ask you. So well, you come over here.
I'm here. You lot come here. I was going to do a film with COE, bro.
All right, well
that in a minute.
All right, if you
Come
come
in,
in.
said Tommy Robinson. He's a Zionist. He said he's a Zionist.
All right,
How
so
can he be for England if he's a Zionist?
Can he not be? Can he not
You
be
get
the
on well with each other.
Not in the Zionists, because they're for one Israeli state. That's all they want.
I mean, that's a lovely idea, but it's never
I've
worked.
got bigger fish to fry than the Jews, mate. I'll protect kids. Fuck the Jews.
I think it's
You're blocking this camera.
it's working better
Catholics. The
than
Catholics are nonsense as well. I'll go for all of you. I'll go for the truth, mate.
with the obvious exceptions of certain minority groups which are experiencing
Frankfurt School is anti-Semitic. Look, mate, all of us are true. Great
They're all Jews. They're all Jews.
Are they?
Heaven
I didn't research that. I just know they're
I
from the
know
Frankfurt School.
You did deep
And look what's
research.
happening. That's
You
all I'm
spend
saying.
every evening typing Jews into Google and
Still
printing
there.
out
No, I
these
don't.
pieces of paper.
I've got better things to do than
So
that,
how
mate.
come you've
I've
got
my
a
own company?
How
Don't worry
come
about that.
how come
I've
you've
got
got a
better things to do. I'll
folder?
fit this in on my
You've
spare
got a
time.
folder full of Jewish.
All right. So this is the problem I'm seeing here.
That's
You're
what it is.
obsessed with us. I'll
No,
tell you
I'm
what,
not,
I'll
I'm
get
not.
you a photograph of me. You can put it on your wall.
look at it all, man.
But he is a Jew. He's a Jew.
I'm not obsessed, but he's got a whole folder.
I got all these photographs of Jews.
Hey, hey, no, he's a black geezer. He's a nonce. He's a black geezer. Little Wayne, he's a black geezer. She might be a Jew, but she's a nonce.
Oh, what about this
He's
guy?
a nonce. He's a nonce. They ain't Jewish.
Who's that?
They ain't all Jews.
Who's
Don't
that?
get carried
That guy
away.
there. That guy there.
He's a nonce.
What religion were all those other people, by the way?
Jewish. But he's a
all
Christian.
the ones that weren't Jewish.
No, we've got Jewish and Christians
They're all
and blacks
Christian.
and whites and everything.
No
Don't worry.
Muslims.
Yeah, it's a black geezer. He's a black geezer. He's a soldier. There you go. We've got it all in here. What more do you want?
It's all in there. The whole
It's all in here. It's all here. It's all here. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about
It's a
that.
big photocopying bill.
Oh, I've got a lot, mate. I've got a lot.
Yeah,
I've got a lot.
When do you find
I've got a lot.
time? When do you
I've got a
find
lot.
time to run your
I've got a lot for
business?
you. I'm a busy man. I've got 5
It looks like it. It looks like you're very busy.
Who else do you want? Koreans, they're nonsense as well. He films with his fucking kid on telly. What do
How
you want?
often do you look up? Not, like, is this something you've researched?
I'm in the middle of doing a documentary. When it's done, I'll let you know the detail. You can watch it. Give me your opinion.
Is that your own documentary, or you've been commissioned, or?
Me and friends, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'll
BBC?
find
Is
out.
it-
That's
is
what
it
it's going
BBC?
for.
Probably not
Do you
a
like
documentary
paedophiles?
then.
That's what it's going for.
probably an
That's why they want to
opinion
normalise
piece.
paedophilia.
Who does
That's
you?
just an opinion
No, of course I
piece.
don't. I never said that.
I mean, that's a
The government
separate
is-
conversation.
You've got this in your
That's
folder.
where
It
it's
says
going.
LGBTP.
Yeah.
Well, that is a serious
This is
topic
an
to have.
advocate. This is an advocate for paedophilia.
Can I say,
that's a Dutch gender dysphoric policeman that wants nonsense to be legal.
Look. This fact. What you're saying is a serious topic.
Madeline Van Bergen.
I agree with you. That's a serious topic.
It is, mate.
But it's not the Jews.
I never said it's the Jews. Who says the Jews?
You got a Jewish
they're
folder.
implicated. No, who says the Jewish
Is
folder?
Tommy Robinson implicated?
They're implicated. Someone said he might have been. Anyway, I can't say on camera.
No. Is Tommy Robinson implicated?
In what sense?
Is he part of this paedophilia movement?
How is he? I don't know if he's a nonce.
No, but you've got him in your folder.
He ain't in my folder. He's in a separate folder.
He's in a separate folder. What's that folder about?
I'm working it. Work in progress.
What's it about, though?
The truth.
No, the truth about what, though?
Truth. That's what we need to know. It's about the truth.
So Tommy Robinson's the truth.
That's the truth. That Prince Charles was great friends with Jimmy Savile. He weren't Jewish. He was a nonce. But he was a nonce, and he was very close friends with him. That's a fact, innit? That's fact. That's fact, innit? Isn't it fact? I ain't Jewish. Look, you lot continue. I'll be back later when I do a video. You can join me about the sexualisation of kids and fabricate genders later. Thank you, and talk later.
Okay, so what done.
Thank you, mate.
All right, this
They won't tell the truth.
All right, so this is a perfect example of you gonna go? Yeah. Okay, that's all right, man. Don't worry. So I'm gonna hold my own camera now. How dare anybody let me? But basically, this is a perfect example of this kind of like blaming the Jews for literally everything, and this is what's happening in the movement, the movement within the Tommy Robinson movement.
I've just showed
where there is now this
they're not Jewish. Jimmy Savile. So how's it blaming the Jews?
There's a fervent anti-Semitism
of so many different people that aren't Jewish.
Do you have a video to make you say
No, we'll do the documentary. You can win it, Joseph. Defend the Jews.
Right, so a lot of people, can you be a Zionist and still be pro-UK?
As well. There you go.
Can you be a Zionist and still be... I'm not a Zionist, but I'm asking you this question because people are saying Tommy's a Zionist. Can you be a Zionist and pro-UK?
So I'm pro-UK.
Politicians are nonsense.
So you're
Christian ones, white ones, black ones.
I'm for the state of Israel.
He's a nonsense.
But I'm not a Zionist per se. I want a two-state solution.
That means you're a Zionist.
All right.
Well, Zionist.
Can't say that now. So I believe the Jews have a right to have the state of
that's
Israel.
basically a Zionist.
And basically, so do the Palestinians.
That makes you a Zionist.
Oh no, I've got enough troubles as it is. Yeah. So can you give me a little bit more of a kind of, because I know you debated Mark Collett before.
So yeah. So
what's your impressions of the guy?
My impression of Mark Collett is he swims in a sewer of Nazism. Like if you look at his girlfriend, she's got a massive swastika on her chest. Like this guy was thrown out of the BNP for being too racist. And one of the things that shocked me when he came on my channel, the video was pulled. But one of the reasons
why was it pulled?
It was pulled because of censorship on YouTube. So one of the issues with Mark Collett is the crowd he attracts. So I'm used to extremism from the far left, anti-Semitism from the far left. I'm used to anti-Semitism from radical Islam, and it's kind of taken our eye off the far right as the Jewish community. And I can hand on heart say I get death threats on a weekly basis, daily basis often, and we never experience such visceral and palpable hatred as when Mark Collett came on and his droves of 15-year-old American followers. He's got no following in the UK. Almost all of his following is American. Unfortunately, the UK doesn't have any real neo-Nazi movement. They're pushed very much to the fringes. So Mark Collett isn't really that big of a concern, but they're the guys that will go crazy. They're the guys that will actually carry out violent attacks.
But I don't
like National Action as an example.
So I don't want to... Basically, this individual, to me, is the opposite side of, like, people like Andrew Chowdhury and those kind of guys. Like, they're very similar in mindset in the sense that, you know, they'll do anything within their means to get their goals, whether that's violence.
So these movements are inspired by each other. The only far-right organisation I'm aware of that's ever been prescribed under British law is a group called National Action. They actually watched the jihadis and modelled their approach and their violence on ISIS. They would watch ISIS videos.
A guy called Ralph or Jawala actually threatened National Action on me, so that's interesting. So they were terrorists.
If he's actually, that's quite disappointing. If Ralph has actually done that, National Action,
well, let me say
you'll get sent down. considered like ISIS. So if anybody has associations with National Action,
Yeah, prescribed, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk to the individual here, but he had to go at 5:20. So we'll kind of continue, but all right, so you're saying that being a Zionist, just basically means somebody that
supports the
wants
existence of Israel.
Israel.
Somebody that doesn't want to see Israel destroyed is a Zionist. It's that simple. And like, we don't have a word for that for any other country because no other country faces an existential threat like that. So if you don't want UK to be destroyed, there isn't a word to describe you. It's just called being normal. Because Israel has such an existential threat because I believe it's a Jewish state and that's why it faces this threat, then there is a word to describe people that support its existence.
So welcome to the Zionist Club.
I got enough troubles as it is. I mean, one of the things about I found quite disturbing when I went to the Al-Quds march was the fact that very moderate Muslims that I assumed to be quite reasonable was saying stuff like, no, there's no way there could be a Jewish state. It's either all or nothing. We're going to push them out, and it's either our way or the other way. And that's one thing I don't
So one
understand.
of the most beautiful things that's happening now in the Arab world, UK Muslims are disconnected from the wider community. They're a little bit behind. The United Arab Emirates just sent out a Hanukkah message to the Jewish community.
All right.
Like, that takes something there. Israel is in conversations with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, like literally
Is that from the religious parties or
from the government. So I think they're all interconnected.
Must be mud cullies.
But all I'm saying is
People know
that
what mud cully is.
the times are changing,
right.
and these guys in the park are a little bit behind, and so they're screaming death to Israel, death to Israel, death to
Well,
Israel.
one of the things
but
is,
the times are changing.
you know, obviously we're going to talk about Respect because Respect has made a
We
lot.
have to.
Well, we have to because he's been in a lot of live streams about Israel being a racist state who oppresses, and it's an ethno state in the sense that they will only let Ashkenazi Jews in. Can you clarify that?
The majority of Israeli Jews are brown skinned, not light skinned brothers like me. The 20% of the population are not Jewish. It has a larger minority population than the UK. And then let's flip that on the other side. The Palestinian Authority, there is not one Jewish citizen. The Palestinian Authority denies citizenship to Jews. In contrast, 20% of Israelis, or almost 20%, are Arabs, and over 20% are non-Jewish.
But there is racism towards like black Jews, though.
No. Like,
Is it? 'Cause I've seen
there's
it
racism
myself.
in every society. There is racism in the UK. There is racism in Israel. There is racism in Saudi Arabia, and there's racism in Australia. Wherever you go, you will find racists. However, Israel actually saved thousands and thousands and thousands of Ethiopian Jews from drought. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of black Jews in Israel, and there's many.
Do you know what the immigration policy of Israel is?
Yeah.
Who can come into Israel and be a citizen?
Anyone can come in, but it's much easier to come in if you're Jewish because it's set up as a place of refuge.
But it doesn't
for
matter
Jews.
about race, though.
No, not at all.
All right, this is
the
one-
majority of Jews in Israel aren't Ashkenazi.
All right, right. So this is one of the arguments
Jews are
we
white.
made over the last couple of days that the Jewish state, to immigrate there, you must show your lineage as a European Jew.
No, this is just nonsense what uneducated people spout on Google Hangouts. And those people that spend 8 hours a day on Google Hangouts, get off, read a book, educate yourself. You're wasting
Including me.
your life.
Including me. I need to get off there as well. Anyway, man, I'm going to kind of wrap it up now, but I'm going to do the conversation with him next week. He had to go. I think he got shook and ran off when he saw you because of the Jewish situation. I don't know what was going on. So we'll wrap this up, yeah. So thanks for talking anyway. I don't know if you wanted to jump in or you're done.
Peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, peace
and
in
the
the Middle
Speaker's
East.
Corner.
Yeah, anyway, man. Take care. Anyway, man.
Good stuff, Raj.
Oh, he's waiting for a story, man.
You realise he's honest.
He's gonna scrub himself when he gets out.
From now to Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
One question. If Somalia, because I've used the equation that I'm from the Punjab, my people, yeah?
What?
Hold on, calm down.
Repeat.
My people, like my mother and my family are from the Punjab, yeah? If I went to the Punjab and all of a sudden there was 30% Chinese there or 40% Chinese, I wouldn't hate the Chinese, but I'd be like, okay, I didn't want that many Chinese there. I'd like my culture there to be what I love about the Punjab is the Punjabi culture. And if you've got Chinese now dominating the area, it will change slightly.
What are you talking about?
So I'm asking you, if Somalia, where you're from, if you had a population of, let's just say, white people come in, and they made